open the floor to any questions. You can direct it to Dr. Masterton or to Ridley. Any questions?
Especially for both the speakers. There are some Muslim sisters who don't wear the headscarf. Do you think that a brother such as yourself should approach them and perhaps advise them to wear it? And if yes, what was the way you can approach them in a way that wouldn't be offensive to them?
Did everybody hear that? The brother at the front was just pointing out that there are some sisters who don't wear the hijab, and he's wondering, with the best of intentions, I'm sure, if he should approach them. My personal feelings about this, and it goes with all men, regardless of faith or no faith. Stay out of women's wardrobes, please. We have Islam is so simple for the way we dress. We're just told to cover and dress modestly, and that is it. However, the rules governing the dress of brothers are many, and there could be brothers in here tonight who are maybe not dressed appropriately. I don't know, and I'm certainly not going to tell you. I'm just thinking of those awful trousers that are hanging off people's backs and pants on display. In fact, I think someone's issued a fatwa about it, having had the misfortune to stand behind a group of brothers who wear those sort of trousers while they've gone into prayer. I think that I was interested that you said that you didn't wear the hijab for 2 years. I didn't wear a hijab for more than a year, and it's very, very difficult, I think, for converts to Islam, as well as sisters living in the West, to put on a hijab immediately. And I'm sure that Rebecca would agree with me that it is an obligation in Islam to cover, so that isn't in dispute. But as soon as you put on a hijab or you cover, you are immediately propelled into the front lines, short sword fighting in defense of Islam. And some of us aren't ready for that for whatever reason. Also, by the very fact that we cover, you can obviously see that we are Muslims, and it's a huge responsibility because we, whether we like it or not, are ambassadors for our faith. And so if we do something incorrectly, or something that's not appropriate, or rude, or shout at somebody, we're quite often, in some people's eyes, they're not looking at, oh, Yvonne really did this, it's, oh, that Muslim woman did that. And so it is a huge responsibility, especially in the West, where we can't blend in, we can't be anonymous. And I think there are all sorts of pressures going on that maybe we don't know about, why a person covers or doesn't cover. I know sisters who leave the house, and as soon as they're out of sight of their parents, put on a hijab. And I know others that as soon as they're out of sight of their parents, take off a hijab. There's all sorts of things going on. And I'm sure it is with the best of intentions, but I think that I personally would not have found it helpful if somebody had come up to me and told me to cover. It's Islam, I think, you develop and change and graduate each day. And so it's probably, in my view, best not to.
I have to say I agree. In my own experience, because I think as most Muslim girls know is obligatory. I know before I started to wear hijab, and I was covering in general, but I knew that it was obligatory, and I wanted to cover it at one point. But similarly, yes, there are many things you have to think about when you are going to be very obviously Muslim. It's not just a simple decision. And sometimes also, if you haven't grown up in a very practicing family or whatever other reason, a lot of girls don't have the confidence. I remember going to a da'wah table, and I think the brothers there could tell, obviously I was interested in Islam or whatever, and I did get handed a leaflet on hijab by one of the brothers, and I thought, well, thank you, but I do know, I have researched it, it's one of the most obvious things that and first thing that we learn about in Islam. And I think, yeah, it is, women do have often a complicated relationship with their hijab. It's to do with how they feel inside about many issues, family, religion, their life, whether they're confident or not confident. So I know I have been asked, well, what would you do if a sister took off her hijab? And I think actually, rather than shunning her, it's important to try to get to the bottom of why she has done that. Because often it can be she's taken it off because of other people's behaviour towards her. There might be other Muslims that are responsible for causing her to lose her iman. So the blame is on them more than it is on her. So perhaps in wanting to enforce hijab, similarly, it would be helpful if brothers could enforce the brothers' hijab, because it's a bit embarrassing as a sister, you know, when you see brothers who aren't appropriately covered, you can't really say, well, do you really think you should be wearing that? You can't. You have to keep silent, really. It's not the right thing to do. So it would be helpful if the brothers could advise each other.
Any other questions?
Yvonne, what's the best TV standard as far as the world of media is concerned in England? Is it taken seriously by the newspapers or television channels?
Well, press TV is like Marmite. You either love it or hate it. And what I would say to, I mean, I'm usually quite open when people say, you know, where is it funded from? I would say press TV is state funded, but it is not state controlled. And the reason I can say that with great confidence is that we fall under Ofcom guidelines. And the British broadcast regulations are very, very strict. And Rebecca will know this. You have to be very fair in your approach when you're doing news or a discussion program. You have to be even-handed. And if you're not, you will get a huge fine, or they'll remove you from the airwaves, pull the plug on the entire station. So it's you know, to critics, I would say that it is very fair. It has been censured a couple of times by Ofcom. One of the, it wasn't fined, but it was, I think Lauren was challenged over the fact that she called the attack on the Marby Marmara a massacre. And apparently that was wrong for her to call the slaughter of 9 innocent humanitarian aid workers a massacre. But these are the sensitivities, you know, that we are dealing with when we're covering the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And as I say, you know, we have to be fair, so much so I actually was put in the invidious position of trying to put up, not a robust defence, but put up a defence for Ariel Sharon. a couple of weeks ago, which I didn't enjoy having to do, but in the interest of balance, it had to be done. So, to the critics, I would say it isn't a propaganda channel, but we do cover issues that the mainstream media won't touch with a barge pole. We do cover Palestine. I think that our coverage of the revolutions across the Arab world are on a par, if not better, than Al Jazeera's. I'm not so sure about the Arabic side, but certainly the English side. And I think the Press TV is developing into a force of its own. Some people don't like it. Some people love it. And the mainstream media tend to look down on us in the same way as the BBC tend to look down on all the media. So, you know, there are different levels, but it's, I think that the journalists are certainly a lot more free to be able to go out and about and report than some of the mainstream media. I know, having worked for the BBC on a project in Afghanistan, we were severely limited in where we could go because of the security. And if they said it's not safe to go out, we'd be stuck in Kabul. And because of huge insurance premiums, mainstream media rarely send their camera crews outside of Kabul when they go to Afghanistan. But as Muslims, you know, what is the point of insurance? It's the will of Allah, and it saves on the insurance premiums as well. So, you know, we go out into areas that other journalists don't go.
Yeah, sure. In light of what's going on with these various revolutions, with one or two of them not being covered, this question for both of you, particularly the campaign against innocent civilians in Yemen and Bahrain, what can we as people do to kind of, you know, raise awareness or just, you know, help support them?
It's very difficult because I've been going on Twitter quite a lot, and the ferociousness of the pro-Bahraini government lobby is quite astonishing. And I used to be a frequent visitor to Bahrain, and was sometimes a guest of the royal family. And I was always received with great hospitality, but there comes a point where you know that something is wrong. And when people are dying in the streets because of live ammunition and crowd control equipment sold by Britain to Bahrain, you know it's wrong. You know that, and so I think that you know, there comes a point where people do have to take a stand, and it is going to be interesting how Al Jazeera handles this, because of course one of the GCC countries which is in occupation of Bahrain now is Qatar, and it's, you know, we found that Al Jazeera suddenly has its ceiling or its limitations. So it is quite interesting. I think the reason why Yemen hasn't